Throughout this course, I've mentioned some things you can do to conserve and extend your iPhone, iPad, or iPod Touch's battery life, but I thought it would also be useful to have the most important ones all in one place. So, in no particular order, let's look at some of these tips and review some of the ones we've seen so far. These can be things you do when you're caught without your charger and you need to slow down your device's power consumption, or these could be settings you leave off when you don't need them. The first one I want to look at is screen brightness. We know that you can quickly get to the brightness slider by dragging Control Center up from the bottom of the screen and using the brightness slider here. Or you can go to Settings, Wallpaper, and Brightness. Your iOS device's screen can get pretty bright at its highest setting, but the truth is you probably don't need to use the highest brightness setting even if you're outdoors in midday sunshine. The lower you can stand to keep your brightness setting, the more battery power you'll conserve. Personally, I usually keep mine at about 3/4 of the way to full. But if I'm in a dimly lit restaurant or theater, I'll sometimes drag the brightness all the way to the lowest level. I can still see everything I need to see, and I'm also consuming way less power. I also keep the auto brightness off. It's supposed to automatically adjust the brightness of the screen for your current lighting conditions, but frankly, I've never noticed it working, and I just prefer using the manual brightness slider. So be sure to play around with the brightness settings and see what level works for you most of the time. Two other big battery eaters are your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth systems. Now, granted, you'll probably want to keep your Wi-Fi on most of the time if you use your device to browse the web and check your email. But unless you're one of those people that has a Bluetooth headset in their ear for the majority of the day, you can probably leave Bluetooth off. Again, you can do this directly from Control Center. Just tap Bluetooth to turn it off. When you need to use your headset or other Bluetooth device again, just turn it back on. But you'll be conserving battery power if you leave it off until you need it. Especially for iPod Touch users, unless you have a Bluetooth headset for listening to your music, you probably won't ever need to turn Bluetooth on. Now, as far as Wi-Fi, again, you might want to leave that on whenever you're within range of a wireless network you can connect to, but if you're out and about and not near any of your wireless networks, turn off Wi-Fi from Control Center as well. Again, you'll conserve more battery power, and if you're on an iPhone, you'll still be able to receive and send emails and browse the web off of your cellular network. Speaking of checking email, every time your iOS device checks for email, it's using up your precious battery power. Check your settings under Settings, Mail Contacts Calendars, and the Fetch New Data area. If you're not concerned with downloading your emails the moment they hit your email server, turn off Push. Your device will then automatically default to the Fetch settings, where you can choose to have your device download your messages on a set schedule every 15 or 30 minutes, on the hour, or by selecting manually only when you open the Mail app. Or go into the individual account settings here, and you can choose which of your email accounts to have Push turned on for. Another feature you can consider turning off are location services. Again, this is the service that makes your GPS features in apps like Maps work, but these days more and more apps access your location information, and they can really drain your battery. So if you don't currently need those services, go into Settings, Privacy, and Location Services. Here you can turn off all location services with this main switch at the top, or scroll down and turn off location services for individual apps. Any app that has checked your location within the past 24 hours will have a gray location icon next to it. Any apps that are currently using your location information will have a purple icon. Sometimes you might notice that your battery is draining more quickly than usual. It's a good idea to come in here and check to see if any of your apps are continuously checking your location for some reason. If you see a purple icon next to an app you're not using, either turn off location services for that app, or double-click your home button and force quit that app by dragging it off the screen to the top. You might also want to check under System Services, where you'll find a list of built-in services your phone uses that also occasionally check your location. Again, if any of them seem to be reading your location when you don't need them to be doing so, you can turn them off here. So for example, maybe you're not traveling anywhere, so you might not need traffic. Now, one setting here that's new to iOS 7 is frequent locations. This is a feature that, when activated, allows your device to track the places you frequently go in order to, as Apple puts it here, provide you with location-related information. To me, that suggests targeted advertising. Also notice down here that you can see a history of your frequent locations, and tapping one will show you that location on a map. I really don't see a need for this setting to remain on, both for battery and privacy concerns, so I'll switch it off. And lastly, if you don't need to be online at all, and if you don't need to make or receive any phone calls, maybe you just want to play some games on your iPhone, you can go to Control Center and turn on airplane mode. which I already currently have on. Normally, you use this when you're on a plane, but you don't have to be on a plane to use airplane mode. Airplane mode is a quick way to turn off all your network connections, location services, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth all at once. And as I mentioned previously, you can even turn Wi-Fi back on after you've enabled airplane mode if you need to. But airplane mode keeps you from having to turn off all those services one at a time. And of course, if you really don't need to use your iPhone, iPad, or iPod Touch at the moment, just turn it off. Having your device switched off is going to save a lot more battery power than going through and turning all these features off, and it takes much less time. So those are some handy tips to remember to get the most out of your iOS device's battery charge.